Adam.
Yes.
Adam, sir. What do you get when you cross a loner with society that's given up on him, doesn't give a shit about him anymore?
Ben Affleck.
Inconceivable!
In a world where laughter was king, on the edge of space,
Ludicrous speed! Go!
Get together, have a few laughs.
masters of the universe.
No, you get this spoiler-filled Joker review. But that was Ben Affleck would have been the number 2 answer.
really
This
thought I
was
was gonna
Family
get it.
Feud. It would have popped in at number 2.
Ben Affleck
You get
is
Ben
number
Affleck.
2.
You absolutely get Ben Affleck.
I just made a shit joke at Ben
No,
Affleck.
you get Joaquin Phoenix like
You do.
blowing out Robert, De Niro's brains. You get what you fucking deserve.
Boom.
Oh God, I love that scene, and I love the movie Joker.
It was great.
I mean, one of your hosts. I'm the host on the left. I'm
The host with the most.
no.
I'm getting out first.
I'm your host on the left, Rod Avis.
I am the host to the north, Adam Peterson.
And this is the
even know.
Cinemasters Universe. This is a bonus
This
episode.
bonus disc.
This doesn't fall under the chronology of this James Bond,
Nope.
whatever version we got coming up. This is a bonus episode. This is for those people who are not paying anything.
Yep.
Then you're getting all of it. It's a bonus, I
Yeah.
guess. But if we were charging, this would be probably like a Patreon exclusive.
This is like, yeah, if we were like, hey, have you joined our special club, the Cinemasters Club, where we send you a mug?
And a sticker.
You could pay monthly, or you could get a discount if you pay
Get
annually.
your Cinemasters exclusive jockstrap right here by being a Patreon exclusive. I don't know. If we start getting enough subscribers, listeners, maybe we can try and pull something like that off.
Ooh.
But as of for now, we got just a couple people at work listening to us.
That's fine.
And a handful of others. I mean,
There's people out there.
Our numbers are decent. They're not great, but they're
I don't
decent.
even know what our numbers are.
Our numbers are, we're like the 13th leading pop culture podcast on iTunes right now. That's a lie. That's not even true.
13th?
13th, baby.
I can't even count that.
Oh my God, we are like way up. Like we're blue Mark Maron in the dust.
Oh my gosh.
Joe Rogan, get out of here.
It's about time.
Step back, Joe Rogan.
I told him this was happening.
I mean, he didn't
warned
believe
him.
us. He's gonna
I
have to
warned
go
him.
back to eating like worms and horse guts.
Yep, I warned Joe.
On dares and for funsies.
I told him. You get that Alex Jones on your show, and things are just going to go to shit.
Look, people, heed this warning.
Heed.
If you haven't seen the Joker movie, not any of the other previous Joker movies, the one that just came out
Joker.
in October
Directed by Todd
2019,
Phillips.
the Joaquin Phoenix movie, you should probably pause this, because you've already downloaded, and we appreciate your download and your support. But go watch the movie, and then on your way home, while you're driving home,
Yep.
rather than talking to your friends, you do like, what'd you think of the movie? Just put us on and listen to what we have to say.
Listen to the things that we have to say.
Because we're going to tell you what to think.
Yep.
That's what we do. We're the Cinemasters, baby.
I have nothing else going on in my life. So movies is all I have. Don't take it away from me.
I just had a shot of vodka. Anyway.
I just had a shot of heroin.
Just a shot of heroin right into your... How does that work?
I don't even remember.
I don't know. You put it you bake it in a cookie, right?
Shoot it into the part. I don't know what this medically is called
Jesus
right there
Christ.
in your eye.
Oh, Jesus Christ, man. That's got to be like the craziest way to put it in your body.
I just think of all the choices I've made in my life and how long they are, and it's like, that kind of subdues the pain.
Suddenly eating that half a pan of brownies doesn't seem like such a bad choice.
No.
You could die of things that are a lot sweeter.
Oh, yeah.
It would take a lot longer to kill me.
Yep.
Than doing the heroin straight into that
part
of the
this
pore
part
of your eyeball
yep,
right there.
Why
would you want to go in? You want to get high a little bit faster. You want to get in like 2 seconds faster. Right there.
I want it right there.
That's how you do it, kids. Don't do drugs.
Yep.
And don't kill yourself.
Don't kill yourself. Unless you haven't seen the Joker yet, then I don't know what you're.
Then what do you have to live for?
That might be.
If you haven't seen the Joker, I'm going to go ahead and say right now, we both really enjoyed the Joker.
Yes.
We saw it separately.
Separate.
I saw it first on a Thursday night. You saw it
second on Friday night.
On a Friday night. Not that this is sort of contest, but it's
you
fresher
won.
in your brain.
You won.
It's fresher in your brain. No, Laura actually was like, I would like to see that, which kind of surprised me because she is most definitely a happy ending girl. You know, she likes her movies with happy endings. And The Joker, I mean, I guess you could say that it was a happy ending, depending on who you are. I don't know. But no, yeah, the recent Todd Phillips directed, written by Todd Phillips, Joaquin Phoenix Oscar Award. I'm calling it right now. The dude's winning the Oscar this year. And,
calling it.
you know, I don't know about best film. Just because it seems to me that, okay, when the movie was getting screened and previewed, it was just like all positive. Now it's dropped below certified fresh, I believe, unless it's gone back above.
I don't know. I don't pay attention to that nonsense.
Yeah, so, you know, it turns out to be, it's a little bit more divisive critically than, you know, you were first led to believe, I guess, when it was like premiered at Cannes.
Yeah.
And it got like the huge standing ovation, which I usually always take with a grain of salt, to be honest. I don't know who they pack these theaters with, but it could, for all I know, just be people who are cool with the movie makers.
I love a lot of movies, and I love watching movies, and I don't know that I've ever stood. Maybe it's just a thing you do at film festivals, but I've never stood in a theater and applauded a film.
Bravo!
I mean, is it just be like if you're at Cannes, like, okay, the guy who made it's here, so like it's appropriate? But I'm like, if I was just a guy standing in, like, I feel like to do like people that do that on flights, like, yes, the plane landed, all right, way to go.
It's more worthy of a standing ovation.
Stephen Jacobson, our pilot, he's a great guy.
You go to kiss the ground, you give a standing ovation.
Yeah,
No, that's what you would do after some really bad turbulence. I
Yeah.
would imagine you would go and give him a standing ovation. But you know, all that aside, the movie it's mostly good. Don't get me wrong. It's not like 50-50 divisive. That's more like a divisive film. But it's not across the board, you know, positive. And I don't read any of the critics. I really don't give a crap about what critics have to say. It's always a nice thing when they like the movie. But I mean, there have been a ton of movies that I've just thought have been absolute dog shit that critics just love.
Because so there's, I mean, so many people anymore, because you're in a position. I mean, if you're a critic, you know, and it's your profession, there's some economic investment, which means you have to keep a certain audience happy.
Yeah.
Like because there's no one, we could piss everybody off next week and have no one watch this, and it wouldn't matter. We'd do it because we have fun.
We don't
doing
have
it.
many viewers to begin
Yeah.
with, so
So
we could wipe the slate clean and be fine.
That's why I applaud people that in Hollywood that speak their mind on stuff.
Yeah.
Even if it kind of goes against the grain, it's one of those, I'm like, God, I appreciate the perspective on it. But it's one of those where it's like there are people that have agendas. There are people that have audiences and fan bases that they have to cater to as far as special interests and different stuff like that. So I don't like reviews like that because it's you're skewing the movie to fit your audience, not filling your audience on a movie. It's like, well, hey, if this kind of stuff is gonna, you know, push your buttons, you probably don't want to see it. But that doesn't mean the movie's not good.
Here's the thing about reviews, and I know we're going off on a bit of a tangent, but you know, why not?
We love
sweet
tangents.
I do. They're so
We're good at
juicy.
tangents.
There are too many critics.
There are too many.
There are too many critics. There are so many critics that you can now have websites that can aggregate scores to give
Yeah.
you something like a Rotten Tomatoes or a Metacritic. And I think it's kind of wild. It used to just be that you had a handful of notable critics and they were pretty reliable. And you didn't always have to agree with them, but you could kind of like tell from a certain critic. You could gauge what type of movie they liked. And if they liked the movie, despite what other critics said, then you could kind of take that as a good sign. You know,
It increases the chances that you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah, but like, you know, there's just millions and millions of critics out there nowadays. Like, if you got a blog, you can be a critic. You can potentially get yourself like on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't love the whole idea of like just the, you know, tomato score and all that. But it did drop below the Rotten Tomato score. It's not quite certified fresh anymore, at least as of, you know, yesterday. But it had a huge opening.
Yeah.
A lot of people went to see it, and that's despite all of the talk of how violent it was, how ultra violent. Adam, it was the most violent movie ever in the history of film.
Yeah. Or not.
Or not.
No.
First of all, completely blown out of proportion. You know,
Absolutely.
I don't know whose agenda it was to inform the the public that this movie was inciting violence. And I mean, it really was crazy. I think I'm of the mind that it's either when the Dark Knight or when
The Dark Knight Rises kid out in
well,
Colorado.
was it the Dark Knight Rises or the Dark Knight where the shooting happened? Because I was watching a report where they said it was the Dark Knight Rises, but I'm pretty sure it was the Dark Knight.
It was the Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah. Was it? Okay.
It was because
Okay,
I remember going to see it, and when I went to the theater, the police were searching people's bags and stuff.
Okay.
I remember that distinctly.
I don't know if people are just kind of wary because of that, and they just kind of took that story and ran with it. But my first, and I didn't try to sway you in one way or another. I was like, I've seen the movie, and I try to not give anything away. Like, I think the only thing I said was it was bleak.
Yes,
That's pretty much my only route. Like, I don't like swaying people one way or another. I just said it's bleak.
I'm unswayable.
No, you're not swayable. But I mean, the movie is dark for
It is.
sure.
It
It's
is
not
very.
a feel-good movie in no way. But as far as violence goes, it's no more violent than any Martin Scorsese movie.
No, I mean I would
It has it has a strong Martin Scorsese feel and vibe to it.
It does. But we spoke briefly offline about it. We didn't kind of go. I just wanted to save a lot of it for this.
Right.
But
Yeah, I wanted to get your genuine feelings and thoughts.
the violence was it was necessary in the way that it was because the whole it was the mechanism. It was a facet of the mechanism that made the Joker who he was.
Yeah.
It was a part, as he moved from Arthur Fleck, who he really was at the beginning of the movie, to
Right.
Joker at the end of the movie.
Right.
It was a part of the transformation, and it increased in intensity, but not by any means in frequency.
Aside from the beatings, which you see in the trailers,
Yeah.
I really only thought of two ultra-violent scenes. The scene where he kills his buddy who rats
clown
him
buddy,
out with
yep.
the gun, in the little person or
Yep.
whatever in his apartment. Granted,
Which
pretty
was
violent.
It was a fantastic scene.
It was. And the scene where he blows De Niro's brains out, which is
Yeah.
honestly nothing I haven't seen on like a Netflix show. Like you
No.
see like headshots like that. It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
completely out of it. I've seen tons like that before. And then really from that's it. I mean, I can't think of any other really ultra violent scenes.
No, and even because it
It earns its R rating.
It definitely does. But there's so many characters in the film that aren't tangible people characters in the way that a lot of people. The city is a character.
Yes.
The tone
Oh
of
my God, yes.
of everything is really a character in the movie because there's this increasing tension that you have to be able to appreciate because it's creating this. There's obviously things that are wrong in the city of Gotham at the beginning of the movie, but there has to be this opening for Joker to kind of rise to being.
Yeah.
And so there has to be a level of unrest that's happening, and you have to be able to view that. You have to be able to see that and feel that, and that's one of the things that Todd Phillips did a great job with.
Yeah, Todd Phillips he wanted to show you that he didn't just put on the makeup and start acting crazy.
No,
it was absolutely a byproduct of the way he was treated. He was mistreated as a child. We find out in the movie that his mother was really his adopted mother.
yes,
And she didn't necessarily abuse him, but she allowed boyfriends to abuse him pretty severely. And he grew up very awkward.
Yeah.
And, because of that, he probably was put off, on. He had the condition. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let's just, what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk about the characters and, the actors that portray the characters. And I'd like to get your thoughts on each character.
Yep.
Starting with, of course, Joaquin Phoenix. Where do you put Joaquin's performance as the Joker amongst all of the others, the Jack Nicholsons, the Heath Ledgers, and the, not Cesar Romero. No, I'm talking like movies. Who was the other guy in Suicide Squad?
Jared Leto.
Yeah, Jared Leto, which I thought was fine. You know, I didn't hate that that portrayal of Joker. I thought it was, for what the movie was, it was fine. But anyway,
It fit within the movie, with the movie.
where would you put it? And I'm not, you know, it's hard because it's fresh in our mind. How did you like his performance? You don't have to rank it, but how did you like his performance?
I thought his performance was fantastic. I think to me, there are elements of it that I felt like surpassed some of the things that even Heath Ledger did. I think as a whole, Heath Ledger still outshines him by a small margin. But I definitively think that one of the things that I appreciate about Joaquin Phoenix's portrayal is you get it's an origin story, but it's not drenched in that typical origin story fare. They're really
No, not really.
You're starting with the character. I appreciate that he has genuine mental disorders.
Yes.
It's when I was like, he's on 7 different kinds of medication. He has that card that he shows the woman. It's like,
I have a condition,
and which is a real condition.
Oh yeah, I love how they treated his laugh.
Yeah.
He laughs not because it's just kind of a neat, novel thing to do. Like it's not just his calling card. Like, he's sick.
Yeah, he has real mental issues.
Oh my god! Every time he did that, it was so creepy and great.
And just to watch him try and cope with the world around him, because the thing is, like, in a lot of your Batman movies, and what I really appreciate about this one that really differentiated itself is a lot of your Batman villains, because Batman villains are just regular people.
Yeah, they're
Most
very
of them.
sympathetic in most cases.
They're really just normal people.
And I thought Arthur was a bit too. Really,
The thing is, in a lot
I mean,
of
he
these
was
instances,
a horrible person. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, by the end, I mean, he had really made the transformation
Yeah.
into, a full sociopath.
But yeah, go ahead.
But most of your Batman villains, for time's sake, because they really are just a facet of a Batman story.
Yeah.
The transition from normal person to insane villain is too brief.
It's quick.
It has to be. It's a
Yeah.
necessity of the story. But this, you really watch the degradation of his mental state.
Oh my god! And that's why I love this one-off idea.
It's fantastic.
I hope they continue it.
I do
really,
too.
really do. It's even if Todd Phillips is the guy that keeps doing it, I don't know, but I think we're gonna this is gonna start a trend in Hollywood, most likely.
Yeah,
Because
I would love to. When I was after I saw it, I said I was talking to Matt, a friend of ours.
yeah.
I was like,
Shout out, Matt.
Shout out to Matt. Have you heard Ron's theory on this? And I said, after watching Joker, I said, I wish that someone would listen to Ron and do this. They need it, not in a gratuitous way, not in the way that Warner Brothers love to jump. It's like, oh, this had success, let's make a bunch of them. It's like,
Yeah.
no, let Todd Phillips be kind of the baron of that, and let him pick people. It's like, all right, we'll do a Riddler movie, we'll do a
Yes.
we'll do a Penguin movie, we'll call it Oswald, we'll do
Yes.
I mean, all these where it's like you just focus in on and tell the whole story of the villain. It's you've got plenty of material there.
and then if you want to bring in the Batman,
Yeah,
So, and there's little droplets of Batman scattered. I don't want to jump ahead to that, but Joaquin Phoenix, his physical transformation to Arthur Fleck it reminds me of a Christian Bale performance from before he was Batman, where it was called The Machinist.
The Machinist, yeah.
Where he just lost, if you can think, even more weight, I think, even than
Yeah.
Joaquin
Yeah.
did. But
Joaquin Phoenix lost 15 pounds to do this.
is that right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. His demeanor, his physical appearance, everything. I mean, like I've always been a huge fan of Joaquin, and unlike a Heath Ledger who had to really travel great distances, so far in fact that he wasn't able to mentally return from
Yeah.
it. But Joaquin, I'm not calling him a crazy person or anything, but he's always a little off anyway.
He's always been out there, yeah.
Yeah, and I love him. I love Joaquin Phoenix. Huge fan of Joaquin Phoenix. I don't feel like it was that far of a journey for him to get there.
No, and I think that's what made him the perfect candidate for it. It's like, and
he plays a victim for most of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like he's doing horrible,
No.
insane things the whole movie.
No, and really even, because towards the beginning of the movie when he's on the subway, and those 3 guys get in his face, they say, it's, the triple murder by this clown vigilante. I was like, Really and truly, if he had gone to the police and explained what happened, it's like he was defending him. I mean, these three guys were beating the shit out of him on the train.
He killed that guy in self-defense. Now he didn't have to. He didn't have to chase that third guy down and kill him. But that's taking
was
it a bit
gratuitous.
Far.
But he
the first guy for sure.
Yeah.
And he would have had a witness too, because he kind of starts laughing. He wasn't really necessarily sticking up for that woman on the subway, but his condition drew attention away from her to him.
In that scene, I like to think that there was a part of it that he couldn't help and a part of it that he could.
Yeah.
And that it was almost like his way of, drawing the attention away from her.
I sensed that he was not approving of what was going on. Like he was looking at the events. I mean, it was three guys on the subway. It was just like these three kind of Wall Street type. Yeah. Just piece of trash Wall Street types, harassing this woman on the subway. And then the fifth person was just Arthur kind of on the other side of the car. And, they're harassing her, and he starts laughing. And, of course they're kind of intrigued by this, and she kind of takes off. So, they could have found her. They could have rounded her up potentially, and she could have, attested that, they were aggressive guys. I could totally see why they would attack him. But no, she runs off, and I don't blame her. Get out of there. But
Gotham's not a great place in this movie.
Not a great place. And I like what you said about Gotham being a character, because it really was like the primary antagonist to the movie until Joker kind of tips over the edge. I love that it was like that 70s kind of dirty pre, when who was it? Was it Giuliani that came in and cleaned up New York? Yeah. So this is pre that, where New York was gritty and dirty in the 70s and 80s. This was a reflection of that. And I love the way this movie is through and through a 70s film, by the way. Heavily influenced by Taxi Driver. If you've seen Taxi Driver, it looks like Taxi Driver.
Very reminiscent of that.
Yeah. When people are saying it was drawing inspiration from that, it absolutely was. And the king of comedy, for sure. Yeah. With the De Niro character. Yeah. But I love that Gotham was just so alive. It was kind of like when Nolan used Chicago to film and bring Gotham to life, but it was a much cleaner Gotham.
Yeah, it was.
It was corrupt, but this just felt grimy and dirty.
But yeah, especially because I was thinking about it.
Times Square, it looks like it had porno flicks playing off in the background.
Because
the subway's really graffiti.
Everything was just was so tainted, and that was the thing. And I think with Nolan's interpretation, especially when you go back to Batman Begins, it was the League of Shadows that had introduced economic disparity as the mechanism that they were trying to bring down Gotham. Right. So it was this outward influence that had made Gotham as desperate as it was. Whereas in this movie, it felt like it was intrinsic, like it was within the veins of the city. It had crumbled from within.
Yeah, the Joker movement was just inevitable.
It was the catalyst that the city needed to really begin cannibalizing itself in a vicious kind of fashion.
So I love what he brought. It was distinct. I don't know. I pity the actor that brings a samey Joker performance to the table in the future, because so far we've had four pretty distinctly different versions of the Joker, and this one is like a cross between. It's not quite Heath Ledger. It's it's really very unique.
It is.
He's just kind of he's a mentally ill. I mean, I get, it's implied that of course Joker's mentally ill in all of the incarnations of Joker, but more so in this one.
Because when you look at the character of Heath Ledger as the Joker in Dark Knight, he's a sociopath, but everything that he does is too calculated. Yeah. With Arthur, it's one of those, he knows the general outcome he would like to see in a situation.
I like the scenes where he's running from the cops.
But there's not a preparedness. There's not a, he's not thought everything out, and he has a contingency for everything.
It's very
it's disjointed,
spontaneous.
Exactly.
A lot of it is.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing's premeditated except the Murrays, scene.
Yes.
I guess let's talk about the Zazie Beetz, I guess.
Yeah.
Her role in the movie was very interesting. I liked the whole the Joker's not a reliable narrator in the movie.
Yeah.
Meaning what you're seeing on film is not exactly what you're getting.
Yeah.
And Zazie Beetz, she plays what was the character's name in the movie? I don't know if I can't really remember. But she's a single mother that lives in his building.
Yep.
Joker,
down.
Arthur lives with his mother.
Yep.
In this dirty old apartment, and they live on the same floor. She lives across the hall from him. And they meet riding up the elevator, and she kind of he looks creepy, and I guess Zazie's character is she's young. She has a child, which is kind of scary. Through parts of the movie, you're like, why is she involved with this guy?
Yeah.
She has a little kid. But she at least acknowledges him.
Yeah.
That's all she really does, which is kind of all that he was lacking.
That's all that he needed.
Even because she does the little blowing her brains out gesture, she's kind of like a camaraderie with him because he looks like he's had a bad day, So she does the thing, and from that point in the movie, we're led to believe that they begin a relationship.
Yep.
That she's this really supportive girlfriend to him in times when he needs her. Primarily when he goes and he performs his stand-up routine.
Yep.
She's there for him, and even the stand-up routine, that also was another false narrative. Because he gets off to that horrible start, which we see, and then it kind of fades into some music, and then it leads into this little romantic montage with he and his girlfriend or whatever, his new girlfriend. But really, what happens is he bombs horribly.
Yes.
It's just the most awkward routine, and you see it coming.
Just cringe.
I love this scene where he's watching the comedians in the audience.
I'm trying to mirror.
He's trying to study them and take notes, and he's writing these notes like sex always equals funny, and he's got those laughs. He's trying. He hears the beat of laughter from around him, and
he doesn't understand the joke, but he's laughing to blend in with the crowd.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, it's so wonderful, so wonderful. So you see that moment coming from so far away. You're like, this is going to be what tips him most likely, and it ends up being one of his idols, Murray, from the late night show that he and his mother watches every night together in the same bed. We don't know that every single night, but whatever. It's a little strange. It's kind of a Psycho kind of vibe.
It's a very odd and
Norman Bates, Psycho.
Uncomfortable relationship. On the scene when he's bathing his mother in the tub, you're just like, there's so many parts about this just make your skin crawl. Kind of.
I thought the actress that played his mother was very good. I honestly felt bad for her. I think she too is a very sympathetic character because she was also mentally ill.
Yep.
And one of the big spoiler here, one of the big turns in the movie is when she reveals to Arthur that he is actually a love child of Bruce Wayne. Not Bruce Wayne.
Thomas Wayne.
Yeah, Thomas Wayne. Thank you. And that was interesting. I was hoping that was real somehow, because I knew that this is not a canon. There is no official Joker origin story.
No.
They very intentionally leave it vague because I think that's what makes the Joker so intriguing.
Yeah.
Because he's so mysterious. This works perfectly. And the fact that they jumped out ahead and they're like, this is the one-off. This is an alternate, an alternate origin story. But when she said that, because throughout the movie in the beginning part, she's writing letters to Thomas Wayne. She admires him very much.
Borderline obsessed with him.
Very much so. And it was, where that leads to is, they had a relationship off on the side, and he knocked her up and then, shipped her away. And you're like, that seemed kind of realistic. And the scene where they had young Bruce, when he goes up to the mansion through the gate, I love that scene.
It was a pretty
because he kind of became the Joker there a little bit with his theatrics.
Kind of his whole demeanor versus because you see Bruce maybe 2-3 times in the movie.
Very little.
I mean,
I don't even know if he has a speaking line in it.
Yeah,
hardly. Well, he does when he speaks to Arthur. I think for a second.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does.
I think he acknowledges.
There's
him.
a little bit of exchange there.
But for the most part, no. And you get Alfred.
Yeah,
They actually show you Alfred.
but Bruce as a child is just this very stoic and solemn character. Doesn't smile, doesn't laugh. He's not behaving like a typical child.
No.
And especially in the contrast, you had the kid on the bus who Arthur's doing the similar kind of stuff, and the kids.
Yes.
All of these other kids,
And
you
his
see all
mother's
of other
like, leave
kids.
my kid alone.
All the kids that come into contact with him respond positively, except for Bruce.
Yeah.
Which was very interesting to me. It's like there's a real contrast here. There's a lot of other kids, that have been in and around situations with Arthur, and they're all laughing and they're he's a funny clown.
Yeah.
And he's doing all the same shtick with Bruce, and Bruce is just standing there as a child. I mean, probably 7-8 years old. Just standing there, he's dressed to the nines in his little wool jacket, out with his for his evening constitutional with Alfred, and it's just like,
What's he doing out there? Oh.
This is just so odd. This whole exchange is just so odd.
Was. But Arthur thought of him as his brother right away. Like, he totally believes his mom.
Yeah.
He's kind of shocked by the news, but he believes it because he wants to believe it so badly. He doesn't know who his father is. He doesn't realize he's adopted. And, of course, he has no memory or recollection of how he was abused as a kid. But it was interesting because in that scene, you start seeing the other side of the story, which even at the time I wasn't quite sure who to believe. Because, Alfred is protecting Bruce.
Yep.
And he's fiercely protecting Bruce. And he's like, oh, you're Penny's son.
Yeah.
You're that, he recognizes who he is. Like, he's never seen him before,
No.
but from the conversation and the claims that he makes, there's a history. Like, he recognizes, like, oh, this is the son of the person who used to work for us, and she got a little obsessed and crazy and claimed that this little kid that she adopted was in fact Thomas's, and then she ends up getting institutionalized.
And some of that,
It was just very mean, though, how they dismissed him.
some of it, I was really still, even by the end, still very suspect. Just, because the logical nature of that whole thing, like, she had worked for the Wayne family approximately 30 years earlier.
Yeah.
And so it's when I was like, okay, if you had somebody that went, batshit that was like at work, you wouldn't forget them. But it was when I was like, just the way that when Alfred responded to it, and then when he's in the bathroom,
it was very
with Thomas.
smug.
It's when I was like, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, we know who you are, we know who you're. It's when I was like, okay. But then
because you could also see how a very powerful person could have somebody institutionalized if they wanted that problem to go away.
Well, and because I think that was the thing is, you weren't made to just trust the Wayne family.
No.
Like in other iterations of Batman, like, especially in Chris Nolan's, Thomas Wayne, he's a beloved character who really is there to the Wayne family wants to try and preserve and save Gotham from, devouring itself. And this Thomas Wayne really feels more like a billionaire politician, elitist kind of guy.
Yes,
and you're
very much so.
Because
running for mayor, that's a side of the Thomas Wayne that I've never really heard before, like that particular.
It was very different, and even just
and instantly you don't necessarily trust a politician, especially an older politician.
And their family dynamics. The fact. Even when you have Martha, she shows up a couple of times, and it's like the whole family. There's none of it that seems like they're a loving family.
Not really.
Bruce is very much removed from it. There's not the
very aristocratic.
Yeah, very much so. And then towards the end, when he had that picture of his mother, when Arthur had the picture of his mother and looked younger, and he flipped it over, it said something like "nice smile" or "beautiful, wonderful smile," something like that.
Yeah, she called him like lucky, I know.
But it had -TW.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, okay, on the back of this picture of his mom said "nice smile -TW." That was kind of the piece of evidence for me that's like, okay.
But then, of course, it all kind of culminates when he confronts Thomas in the bathroom when he sneaks into the benefit that the Wayans were at. And I said the Wayans, like Marlon Wayans, that the Wayans were at.
Were at.
Boy, that took a weird turn, didn't it?
When he
confronted Keenan Ivory Wayans, not Keenan Thomas. But so there was that scene that was like Joker or Arthur was. I mean, it was so sad. He's just like, why won't you just admit that I'm your son? I know I'm your son.
Yeah.
Look at us. We look alike. Like he was trying to have a heartfelt kind of, he was pouring his heart out. And at that point, Thomas just decks him.
Yeah.
Just knocks him out. And that's a very violent response to...
It seemed very aggravated. It seemed very, it was like, okay.
It was like, come near my son again, I'll fucking kill you.
Yeah. And it was...
Still at that point, you're like...
And that's what I mean. Like all of those little pieces of evidence to me is just like, I like that you don't get a definitive answer to it, so you can make the case one way or the other. You could say, okay,
you could still, even after what we know, argue that he is the son. You could.
I
don't think that that's necessarily what the movie is really leading you to believe, but you could make that argument.
I think they want to leave it up to being just vague enough that you don't know.
Right.
And I think that really, because it creates this fun little dynamic that where you have the Joker and Bruce Wayne are half brothers.
Yeah. Oh, I would love that.
And it's like,
wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that just make the whole Batman Joker dynamic that much more interesting?
I
can't believe no one's ever really thought of that before. And I don't know all of the different comic book iterations that are out there. Maybe it's been played with before, but
I think especially in fan fiction, I feel like I've heard similar things.
Oh my God. Because they're so tied together.
Oh yeah.
That would be so fucking like Shakespearean,
It really would punctuate the story very nicely.
Yeah.
And it would create, it would balance out their because the two of them, those two characters have a very different dynamic than Batman and any of his other villains.
Yeah.
It's a very different relationship altogether.
Let's see. I don't want this to go past an hour, so I see. I want to try and keep this a little bit concise. I don't want to go too long. What did you think about Robert De Niro?
I liked Robert De Niro. I thought he was a fun little mechanism in this. I thought it was it really did bring out the Scorsese in it, which I feel
he really was the only Scorsese tie to it that I know of.
But because that was one of the things I remember, even preliminarily, people were saying it had a very Scorsese vibe to it.
Yes.
Even before trailers started coming out.
Well, there was the whole Taxi Driver, and then of course Robert De Niro being in Taxi Driver,
Yeah.
so you just couldn't help but think of it. And it's Scorsese's like heyday was the 70s.
Yep.
So, I mean, you could say that there are lots of other hits.
Yeah.
Like Goodfellas was the 90s. So I don't want to say it was heyday, but that's when he came up.
That was his
when he first gained notoriety.
That was where Scorsese started getting some notoriety.
Right. Yeah, and I feel, and I'm thinking throughout most of the movie, he's really being underutilized.
Yeah.
But that all ended when they had that great two-way conversation when, they're filming the episode where he invites Arthur onto the show as kind of a joke. You could see something like that happening very easily in the real life. A viral video goes, they're getting some mileage out of it. They're laughing at his expense. So people are really digging it. So they were like, well, let's get him on and maybe we can mine some more gold out of this. And then, of course, they have that showdown. It gets very serious when he admits to killing those three people on the subway. And I love that scene. God.
I liked that De Niro in his character leaned into it instead of being, having this shocked, like, oh my gosh. It was like he's everybody else, the audience kind of plays that role where they all kind of
He
gasp.
became his father. Now, Arthur Fleck had the fantasy when he was a guest. He got called into the show from the audience, and he hugs him in his fantasy. De Niro hugs Joaquin in the scene, and he whispers into his ear, like, I wish I had a son like you. And I was like, whoo, like that was a crazy scene.
Yeah.
But he kind of like, in that moment became like a father figure, and he
Yeah.
treated him like a son, like a troubled teen.
Yeah.
When he's sort of dressing him down, even though you can see the pot stirring and the situation becoming critical with like,
Yeah.
you know, like he's very clearly, you know, becoming unhinged.
And it like he was there was an inquisition. He wanted to it was okay, I'm acknowledging what you're saying is true. I want you know, do you think this is funny? Do you think this is appropriate? You know, it's like all of these things. It's like in that.
I don't think
that
this
vein.
is very funny. You know, like, yeah, it was just taking like a very fatherly, scorning kind of approach to it.
It was honestly, I think it was probably some of the best dialogue in the entire movie.
Yeah.
Just because it was. What I found myself after the fact when I was mentally revisiting that scene, I was thinking how 2019 my brain is wired, thinking of if you had that situation, how that would play out in a modern world. I mean, everybody would be instantly, you know, social media is like, oh my gosh, it's like there would be this instant response to the information that you had just received. Oh, he's the guy that killed these guys. You'd have police on hand. He'd be, you know, you wouldn't even have that conversation because they would shut it down. They would, you know, all of the pieces would be managed, but because
it wouldn't have gotten that far.
No, it wouldn't have gotten that far. No. But because of the time frame that it was shot, you have this delay. You have this. Well, there aren't just police here. People are watching this, and it's a live broadcast.
Very relaxed security.
But it's when I was like, the response to this is going to have some lag because people are going to hear it, have to digest it, and then figure out what is our response to it. There isn't an immediate, oh my gosh, a guy on live TV just confessed to murdering 3 people in our town. Here's what we would do in that situation. They don't know. So, I mean...
And honestly, his producer, who was played by Mark Maron, I think, was wanting to pull the plug.
Like, cut this,
but De Niro has been in showbiz for so long, I think really it was just sort of his hubris that just kind of kept it going.
It's like, all right, this is going to be, in his mind, it didn't strike you as this, he was trying to capitalize on it. But in the back of it, just in that portrayal, I felt like you could kind of pull out, like, he knows that, okay, outside of getting shot in the face and being dead, you know, this interview is going to be one of those things, like, this is going to be a hallmark of his career. It's like, this interview will be a thing that,
which is something a like old showbiz person might think, you know, like, I'm sick and tired of doing this show pony, you know, like this entertainment showbiz thing, you know. So yeah, I could totally see that. And if you think about it in terms of like Zodiac and thing, like that kind of thing played out live with the psychiatrist. You know, he kind of had a moment with the Zodiac killer there. So you got to think of it in like that too. So, and as the audience member, like, you knew going into the movie that whatever was going to happen on that show. Like that was something horrible was going to happen. And during leading up to it, the rehearsal was really, it seemed to be that like he was just going to commit suicide on the show. Yeah,
that was, and I thought they did a really good job of leading you down that road.
Yeah.
I had my hesitations. Like, I don't think that's how he lets this character go out. So that's why I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
But he did a really great job of.
No, I didn't totally buy it either. But it was nice that they kind of set you up to doubt it a little bit. Yeah.
They made you think like this is the direction we're heading. Mm-hmm. And then it wasn't like this. Oh my gosh, what? I was like, because even in the moment when he shoots De Niro, there was still a moment where it was like, disbelief is the word that comes to mind, but it's almost like in my head in that moment, it still could have been, they had created the scenario so perfectly that it was still kind of a flip of a coin.
Yeah.
Is he going to kill himself? Is he going to kill De Niro? Is he going to just go crazy and start shooting people in the audience? I'm not 100% sure exactly what he's going to do.
I was there with you. Yeah. Up until there was a scene where, you know, there was the camera point of view was sort of over. It wasn't straight on Joaquin. It was sort of like he was looking at De Niro as the host, and he was shaking physically. At that, there was, you know what I'm talking about? That part when he says something, you know, like you would probably step over me if I were, you know, so like he kind of at that point solidifies the whole, like, you know, the rich should be punished. He decides in that moment, I feel like.
Yeah.
And he was defiant towards him, scorning him as a father figure. Like, I think he really kind of decided in that moment he was going to shoot him instead.
Yep.
Now, I don't know, because he didn't have an escape plan or anything. So, he gets caught after that. So, very, very interesting stuff. Let's see. Who else could be? Todd Phillips. Where does Todd Phillips go from here? This guy, known for what? Old School and the Hangover movies, comedies.
I like this emergence. To me, it reminded me very much of Adam McKay, going the route of The Big Short.
See, I was thinking Jordan Peele, coming
yeah.
from comedy and taking a very different route.
I like that we're seeing more of that, where you get to see guys that, because it's not that comedy's easy, but I think that's one of the things that something like this really highlights is comedy isn't easy. I think a lot of people think you could just churn out a comedy.
But I agree with you that people might assume that you can make a fart noise.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we'll just make dick and fart jokes for 90 minutes and people laugh at that.
That goes only so far.
Yeah, it's like, there's some complexity to it, and guys that are really, have
and the scripts for the first Hangover, that script for the first Hangover movie was tight.
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
the other two movies, not so much.
Yeah, two, and you could tell those had more studio influence.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the thing is, like, if somebody's a good writer and has a good eye for it, and that was one of there were so many. I don't like to get too film school art house on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, me neither.
But it's one of
I'm not qualified, to be honest.
We're extremely qualified. But that was one of with Joker. It's like as I'm watching, it was like every part of the entire experience to me felt so intentional. The sound, the visuals,
the music.
One of my favorite parts of the entire movie is you see those stairs, the entirety of those stairs, and every time he's going up those stairs, he just has this. He's slumped over. There's just this defeated kind of persona that just envelops him. And what I really appreciated is he goes up those stairs, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 times.
Yeah.
And they have that shot, and it's
at the end of every day, basically.
It's a really great shot too, because it's this whole.
Oh my God, I love that.
There was a very rich relationship between foreground and background, and how that intermingled.
You can use it. Use it to your advantage.
But he got to a point where at the end, when he had made the transformation, was the only time he went down the stairs. And when he went down the stairs, there was so much more. There was so much more life to him. There was so much more of a fluidity to it. Even when the police start chasing him, I was like, he's still, there's still
he's putting it together.
Yes,
because let's talk about the transformation of Joker real quick. I guess we can. It starts basically when he kills the 3 guys. Yeah. He gets the gun. You learn that he's on all kinds of medication for starters. Well, for starters, he's on all kinds of medication. He wants to be numb. And then the government-assisted program that he had been following was being cut, and then he's sort of on his own at this point.
Yeah.
So he has no more medication to keep him in check. He gets the gun from the quote-unquote friend from work, and so now he's armed. And then he becomes empowered when he kills those 3 guys. Then he runs to that bathroom, locks the door, and he does this dance.
Yeah.
This very poetic kind of, I don't even know what kind of dance you would even call it. It was like a music, symphonic music was playing in his mind, and it's a very kind of. It wasn't like he was it was real kind of poetic and a like a ballerina.
Yeah, it was very ballet. Have that fluidity to it.
Yeah,
that just it felt. It was awkward to watch, but at the same time, it was meaningful. Like you could tell, there was a part of him that was kind of coming out of all of this.
Yeah, and I like that the violence. I think in a lot of cases, these serial killers, violence is sort of a sexual turn on. You had that one kind of off-center scene where he's sort of playing with himself when the studio from Robert De Niro, they call him. And they ask him to be on the show, but he's kind of off playing with himself on the side. It's such some may say an unnecessary scene, but I felt like that was so authentic to a person like that would be sickened like that, you know,
Yeah.
who would get off on the violence of it, you know, which I think the Joker does.
Yeah.
Even in the scene in the end when he's like, I don't want to pretend like I should be sad anymore that those 3 guys are dead.
Yeah.
I'm glad they're dead.
Yeah.
He feels liberated by it. And so, you know, like that begins his transformation. So, of course, we had this scene where he confronts the guy who gives him the gun. He learns, of course, that he rats him out.
Yep.
Ends up leading to him losing his
Getting
job.
fired.
Get fired from the job that he likes, which, by the way, he's a clown. I like that there's a tie to the Joker
Yeah.
being a clown in this movie. You know, like if you got an origin story, like he's just a clown in all of the other iterations of Batman. In this, he's working at a clown for hire business, and he enjoys being a clown. He enjoys the theatrics. He likes entertaining kids. I love this scene where he drops the gun at entertaining
That
children.
was fantastic.
Where you're happy and you know it, and that was like the only kind of funny scene, which had
yeah.
in a movie void of humor entirely.
Yeah.
You're not really supposed to laugh at that scene. You're supposed to be horrified, and you are. But I kind of like giggled a little bit because of the way he kind of tries to cover it up. Yeah. But you can just see him coming unhinged, man. And then there's the scene when he locks the door, the little person and the one guy in with there's this sort of ruse that they're coming over to comfort him over
His mom just
his mother was who just died, I guess.
because he killed her.
Which was another pushing point, right? You know, even more like you knew that was coming. Like that might be the thing that pushes him over the edge. But he's got like, you know, the makeup on and crap, and he's almost there. He's like almost completely there. He's got the green hair in, you know, with the dye.
And you could see, you know, because he wasn't doing it in any careful kind of manner, like you could see the remnants of green dye kind of just dripping down his skin.
You're absolutely right. This is very carnal the way he was doing it. And he just did that. He decides to, you know, get his vengeance on this guy. He pulls the scissors out and just in a very Sopranos-esque type kill, and a very Scorsese kill.
Just
like you know, in Goodfellas when you know, like the guy gets stabbed to death with the pin in the neck. It was just that scene completely.
Absolutely.
And that on top of like the wailing and the cries of horror from, you know, the little person off screen
Was
punctuated it so much more because he's just, oh my God. And then you have that moment where he, you know, is like, is he going to die too? I was convinced he was going to kill him.
Yeah, I appreciated that he didn't.
Yes.
I appreciated that, like,
Made him
after,
again a little bit more sympathetic that he didn't.
and it was after.
But he lunged at him in a joking way, in a very Joker way.
And that was, I mean, like, there were so many parts, so many little nuances here and there that just really made it
so tasty.
It really did, because it was like, in the aftermath, it's when I was, you know, like when you think of somebody, you know, even a lot of, you know, serial killers in you know, movie, you know, people that are murdering people left and right, there's an uneasiness to it, where like, you know, there's that heightened
unpredictability.
state.
Yeah.
You know, there's that adrenaline where there's still, you know, it's like, and for Joker in that moment, right after he had murdered him, he's like laying there relaxed.
Yes.
Like that was what he needed.
It was like he was having a cigarette after sex.
Yeah, it's like, I
really
needed to
like,
kill that
satisfying.
guy.
Yeah.
And then it was like, it was just, and even the dynamics of that, where he had purposefully locked that top latch to where the little guy couldn't do it.
Oh, and he runs over. Yeah. Well, because the scene plays out like he's like, I'll let you go. Then he lunges at him in a joking way. Yeah. And then it plays out like kind of like comedy, you know, like the little guy's trying to reach up and he has to kind of like look back and go like, can you let me out, please?
Yeah. It's like, oh.
And then he once again makes you think like, oh shit, this was very calculated and planned. He was gonna kill him all along, but he wanted to give him that hope. But no, he very sweetly says, "You were the one. That
You were
was
the
nice.
only one that was ever nice to me." And
Kisses
it was just,
him on the forehead, and he runs off.
and it was like this really weirdly sweet little moment. We're like, okay, the side of his face is covered in the blood splatter from the guy that he just murdered.
Blood's all over the wall.
He's trying to have this heartfelt moment with somebody. You're just like, you have this, you know, you just continue to understand the character in new ways. Like, you have no idea how to relate to people. You have no capacity for that.
And the movie was a very gradual, slow burn to his descent. that's where the movie really kicks into high gear for me. When that scene happens, and then like it's playing that da 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 da, and he's kind of strutting in slow motion. There's a lot of slow mo in this movie.
Like Gary Glitter. What?
But then the dance starts happening down the steps, and it starts with that very like kind of poppy song. Then it like leads into the symphony, like the score of the movie that kicks in. He's doing like the whole dancing scene you see in all the trailers, and that's when he's confronted by the detectives who are on him, suspecting him for a while in the movie. And then he leads them on this chase through the subways. And you had that very visceral scene where like the cops
it was very uneasy.
Very uneasy. That guy for sure got trampled.
Yeah,
and seriously injured, if not killed.
Like I don't think they're like, oh, they're in critical conditions. Like I don't think those guys are gonna make it.
Yeah, especially the one guy.
Because they were, I mean, in a train filled with people who were going to this protest, this hotbed of controversy, the
city's just
contention,
boiling over,
ready for something. It's like these police officers represent to all of these people everything that is wrong.
Yes.
And it's like, and what was nice was even within that is like until something really happened, until somebody created an incident.
Yeah. One guy steps on another guy and he turns and punches that guy, and then that's when things escalate. But he's a cop. He's got his gun out. He's waving it around, and then they attack him, and they just overrun him completely. And then Joker sees I love that part when he kind of reminded me like Heath Joker's like entrance in The Dark Knight when he's kind of like got the mask on and you can't tell what his expression is. He's got that little mask on that he took, that all the other protesters and stuff are wearing, and he does like a little jig, in a very Joker way, and then he takes the mask off and throws the garbage. Such a great scene. And then of course you go straight into the whole finale that we've already talked about. Let's talk about the end of the movie, and then we'll wrap this thing up. How do you feel that they actually did the whole Wayne murder thing? What's your thoughts on that? Because they tied it up nicely.
It reminded me of in The Dark Knight Rises at the end when Joseph Gordon-Levitt goes to visit the estate.
Yeah, and he finds the cave,
and they're like, "Oh," the lady's like, "Oh, you should use your legal name, Robin." And you're like, "Oh," it's one of those where it's like, I mean, Robin's name was never Robin. It was just it was this nice little nod to
Dick
Batman.
Grayson, and then he became other names too, right?
Yeah, and so
Nightwing.
Yeah. And so you have what I felt like was okay. You've integrated Thomas Wayne and Bruce. You have all of this. He said. I mean, Todd Phillips said from the onset, "Is like this is not canon. This is not part of anything."
Right.
But I like,
and that's how it got made. I'm sure. Don't fuck with our actual Batman. Now they might reconsider at this point. And that scene to me, I'm sorry. Finish your thought.
No. I was going to say, you've set everything up to the point where it's like, okay. You kind of can't not have the Thomas Wayne, Martha Wayne execution. So it was when I was like, it was nice that he did it in a way that made sense within the story that they did. It was when I was like, it didn't feel gratuitous, didn't feel necessary. But it was when I was like, okay, you've integrated Thomas and Martha Wayne into the story. You've shown me Bruce. If this is supposed to, I mean, in another world where this would, materialize into Batman being a thing.
I wish they didn't do it. It feels to me very much like studio meddling. Like, this has got some heat. Yeah. Let's go ahead and put this in there. It's the whole like Ben getting killed with Spider-Man. It's like, do we have to see this scene? And it wasn't gratuitous.
No.
But do we have to see this scene again?
We didn't. And
they could have showed some restraint and not had that part.
Need that.
No, but the way they did it was as perfectly done as you could do it.
Yeah.
It wasn't the Joker that killed him. It was very much like from the '89 Batman.
Yeah.
When it was Joker that killed him, but it was what was his name?
Jack. I forget
Napier. Jack Napier.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then was it Joe Cool or something that kills him in the comics? Like it's not the Joker.
Yeah.
Something cool. So it was just this like random dude who just by happenstance happened to be standing out of this theater that the Waynes were in, and then it happens so fast too. They don't draw it out. Like, it happens so fast. Like, literally, like, all this chaos is happening. The Joker's in a car accident. His followers lift him up, and then the kind of like almost like pans over. Like, the Waynes walk out of the theater, and you're like, holy shit, I can't believe it. And by the time like you finish what your thought, boom, he shoots him, rips the pearls off. You get that whole like visualization of that play out once again. And like, it wasn't gratuitous, but like, I just wish they hadn't have done it.
Well, and part of what
it didn't need it.
Part of what made it seem somewhat gratuitous was the fact that they had gone to the efforts of imposing this kind of class structure within Gotham, to where it's like there's parts of the city, it's like it made sense. Like, okay, there's parts of major cities like, oh, you don't go to this part of the city. Oh, this is the bad part of the city. Oh, this is where all the low income and the crime and here's where all the problems are. This section of the city. Yeah. And so there's a part where like it doesn't really make sense. It's like,
why would the Wayne? I've always wondered that.
Why
myself.
are the Waynes going? It's like I like the
unescorted, no,
It's like, okay, this is a guy that's
like no Alfred even.
Mayor. This is, and it was like, it's one of those like.
It's like the old time. It's like basically like old Times Square.
Yeah.
Like, why are you watching a movie at Old Times Square? Like, I get that you're like a political figure. You maybe want your face to be seen. I don't know. I don't even want to give him the benefit of the doubt there. I'm totally with you on that.
That was what was problematic about it. It's like, okay, you kind of just threw this together because you didn't.
And they happened to go see a movie in the midst of this riot.
Yeah, it's like, oh, there's a riot. Oh my goodness. Where should we go? Man. Probably down this alley.
I smell studio meddling there.
It does kind of feel like it.
But, it doesn't spoil the movie for me whatsoever. I love the scene so much. When he reaches into his mouth with the blood and smears
that was fantastic.
Holy shit. That is one of my favorite Joker moments in any Batman movie ever. When he does that.
Yeah.
He's all bloodied from the accident and he just makes the smile. I'm like, oh, that's what was missing from like his whole makeup spiel. Like, I was never really loving the way he looked as Joker in all of the promotional shots. It looked too much like a clown. But it makes sense in the movie. I don't hate it, but I didn't love it. But when he did that last bit, kind of completing his transformation to the Joker.
It brought it around to
Oh, man, it was so good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this movie was great. I think people should definitely go see it.
I agree.
I don't know. When I first saw the movie, I thought, I'm walking out and I was like, that was bleak. That was a really hard watch. I don't know if I'll watch this movie again. At least in its entirety. Like, I want to watch those last 20 minutes again.
Yeah.
But everything leading up to it is really bleak and grim and, just hard to watch. You feel so sorry for the guy through most of the movie because he doesn't hurt anybody. He's just this like weird little guy who doesn't hurt anybody.
Well, and that's the whole part of his transformation is he's really just there to try and do whatever like. I'm not anybody. I'm not looking for anything. Yeah. I'm not trying to do this. I'm not trying to do that. Just let me have.
He didn't want any part of the movement until the end. Then he kind of was like embraced it.
He's like, let me just be. I like being a clown. Let me be a clown. Yeah. Let me make just enough money to live in this shithole place with my mom. Yeah. And just exist. All I want to do is just kind of eke by in life. And it was like life said no. You're going to be a recipient of just kind of this unending punishment, and it was every little thing just kind of pushed him a little further and a little further. And I was
a little scared of that scene when he walks into Zazzy's apartment.
Yeah,
when it's revealed that he was not involved with her, and he sits on her couch, and she's like, "You're that guy that lives down the hall," and he's like, "I had a bad day."
And
he's like kind of weirdly feeling on things, like the little girl's backpack. And you're like, oh no, I hope this isn't where he flips out.
Well, and you really don't know.
No.
It's another one of those ambiguous moments where it's like, did he lose it and they're dead? Or did he just get up?
You don't know for sure.
You don't. And I was
he just turns and does the thing. Does he kill them? I don't think he did.
I don't think he did either, but I like that they don't definitively tell you.
Yeah.
You can go one way or the other.
Because she never wronged him either.
No.
So, like, it felt like all of his responses were like the self-defense in the one part, And the people that wronged him,
Yeah.
they didn't deserve it, obviously, but they didn't need to be savagely murdered. But they wronged him, and she
Yeah.
got wrong. She just made eye contact with him once, and he stalked her. It was very creepy when he's like stalking her all the way to the bank.
Yeah.
And I love how he just like the whole false narrative thing when he created that relationship. It was a
That
really
was
nice
pretty great.
touch. Dug that a lot. All right, man. Movie didn't feel too long.
Nope.
It looked and felt great. It was very, like I said, 70s through and through, from the 70s Warner Brothers logo to the end of the movie when he's running back and forth in a very silly Joker way, and like the end splashes on. It was such a tribute to older movies, and I think it's going to be a timeless movie because of that. This is going to be a timeless classic, I think.
So many of the just like the little pieces, because even as I was watching, I was thinking about different stuff when they have that they have the benefit where he goes and he dresses up like the usher, and he meets Thomas Wayne in the bathroom, and they're watching Charlie Chaplin films, and Charlie Chaplin he wrote the song "Smile" that they used.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's one of those is like. All of those little things, those little
Pogos,
tiny things,
yeah.
Pogos,
Yeah.
it just that's life, just that Frank Sinatra,
yes.
New York. I was just all of those things is like there's
Everything was
so
intentional.
so many little, and I like that because it's like okay, to be that intentional on that
Make
many
it
layers,
fun for further watches.
you
down the
have
road.
to think about so many elements of that. And I'm just like okay,
I think it's a masterful movie.
yeah, I really do too.
I think I do think Joaquin's gonna walk away with the award because he checked a lot of those boxes that they look for. Now I don't know who other frontrunners possibly could be, and it's an October release. So what's the qualifying point? Is it the end of the year?
I think it just has to be by the end of the year.
Yeah. So like it's gonna be fresh in people's minds. It's gonna be playing for a while longer still. I think it's got a real shot. I think it has a real shot maybe for screenplay. I don't think there's any shot in hell that he'll win Best Picture or Best Director.
There'll be too much steep competition.
Yeah.
I mean, there'll be 2 or 3 other solid contenders that, at the end of the day,
But I think the Oscars, at the end of the day, will look at this movie, and it's not a comic book movie in any way. They'll feel more. Maybe it could be a dark horse movie. Like maybe it's finally that. Comic book movie that breaks through and wins Best Picture. You don't know, but they'll let it happen because it's such a fringe movie.
Yeah.
There's no superhero elements to this whatsoever.
No.
It's just the characters. That's it.
And
in name only.
I can't remember if it was Saturday night after I got home or Friday night after I got home, or if it was sometime Saturday when I was going through different stuff. I watched a quick Nerdist video. They were talking about how they could integrate this into the DCEU. And I was like, don't.
Yeah.
Don't.
Please
Leave
don't.
this out.
Yep.
It has nothing to do. It's like, well, they could feasibly. I don't care how they could feasibly do this or that. I don't care. Don't. Leave it out. This is a great movie. Has nothing to do with the DCEU. Not at all.
Don't. And it's not like Joaquin's under contract to do anymore, but do another villain.
Yeah, I don't even want a sequel to this. I think this is great in and of itself.
I don't want a sequel either because we know it happens.
Yeah.
Give us like what I'll put it to you. What villain would you like them to give this treatment to? Of all the other Batman villains, who would you like to see?
Well, outside of the Joker, the Riddler is my favorite. So I would love to see the Riddler. But I was thinking about it because I was like, okay, you could make a really compelling Penguin movie. You could make a really compelling Scarecrow movie. You could really, for the first time ever, you could do a Mad Hatter movie, which would be really entertaining.
Did you hear the rumors that like Jonah Hill might be possibly
Jonah
Mad Hatter
Hill
in
and
the Batman the Robert Pattinson Pattinson or whatever.
Jonah
like
Hill and
that.
somebody else. They were talking to somebody else was going to be playing another role because they were both kind of on the news front for that. We'll see.
I don't even know. I dare not even think. But I also like the Riddler.
They've got 6 villains.
There's been a lot of time. There's been about 20 years or more since the Jim Carrey Riddler, so it's time.
And I didn't care for that one.
It was kind of fun at the moment.
It worked for what they wanted. I mean, Jim Carrey was huge at the box office, made tons of sense.
It's not easily rewatchable now in 2019.
Nope.
So anyway, I mean, hell, it was a great movie. We don't really have a rating system. Should we make one up?
Let's see.
I give it 4.5 hams out of 5.
Ooh. I'll give it 4 3/4 hams.
Yeah, not a perfect movie,
I'm gonna
but
put a little extra ham in there for you.
a little extra ham, a little extra glaze. And well, I hope you enjoyed our spoiler-filled review
Spoilers.
of Joker. It was great.
Yeah.
It was really great. I don't need to. I can preserve it in my mind from here
For
on out.
eternity.
Yeah, like Logan. I've never really watched Logan a second time because I just thought it was so good. It was so good. I don't need it again.
I watched it 2 times on opening night. So.
All right. Well, thanks for hanging in there with us for this bonus episode.
Bonus.
We'll see you in the real episode next, whenever that might be.
Yeah.
I don't know in what order these are going to go in.
I don't know.
It's going to be something Halloween-y, though, I bet.
Probably.
For October.
Seems like